startup has got to be a byproduct for that. It shouldn't be the other way around where you start up something and then look around what to solve. I strongly believe in letting the employees fail also. So there are like 1-2 times the targets will be missed. I think that's totally fine. People need to have that sense of freedom out there. You would always realize it's a team's victory. It's not like one particular person, like kind of that even if you get a man of the match and your team loses, you'll always be unhappy for that. I believe resilience is about thriving in the bad times. So that's what we have done as a company.
Hello everyone, welcome to another series of Embrace Excellence. Today we have with us a very inspirational leader who's done some really exciting stuff along the way his journey. And for me, it's a great pleasure to have on our talk show today, Sravanth Gajula, a very reputed name in the startup ecosystem. A few of you might know him as the co-founder of AdOnMo. A few of you might know him as an inspirational speaker. A few of you would definitely know him as a startup mentor. Also, a very, very interesting fact is that he's an avid photographer with close to 50,000 followers. All about this, he's a ISB gold medalist, someone who loves cricket, who's led corporate league tournaments and led these teams very passionately and fluently to some amazing victories. On the whole, a person who's explored many facets of professional and personal journeys in life. And for me, it's really interesting to explore this story as to how this individual has managed so many things, yet become so successful. On this note, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Sravanth Gajula on our talk show today. Welcome, Sravanth.
Thank you, Liz.
It's wonderful to see that you've done so many things over a vast period of time, I should say. But how do you manage such stuff? I would really love to understand this aspect from you.
I think like most of the points that you mentioned were like kind of related to be it academic journey or be it the professional journey out there. And cricket obviously is cricket and photography and movies. These are like my stress busters. So that's my go-to stress buster at all times. But apart from that, so when it comes to the professional journey of like, be it the co-founding of the startup or the startup earlier to this. So predominantly it was about, multiple things being in place, like having the right team in place, having, kind of solving the right problem at the right time and the focus as well. That helps.
It's really interesting to hear. But on this note, I really want to understand, you are someone who's placed a lot of emphasis on education. How has that shaped you as a leader?
Yeah, that really is a very interesting experience. In fact, like I studied in 5 different schools. So both my parents are government employees. So there used to be a lot of transfers. So I studied until my +2, I have studied in 5 different schools across 5 different geographies. So that actually helped me like kind of get a lot of exposure, like meeting different people. And that's a learning in itself, talking to varied people and across different zones. And post that, like my master's in US and my work ex in US and coming back to India, working here, starting up something here. So it's about like people learning from people. That really helped. And as you rightly mentioned, ISB has also been a transformational experience. So so I think meeting people has really helped me like, grow as an individual and understand varied perspectives.
It's wonderful. Can you talk about one such incident, either in your time at ISB or in the US, or one individual who's impacted you? I'm sure you would have come across multiple individuals who've helped you pivot into different journeys of life, right? But one such incident that was very interesting.
Right. I think one, there were like quite a few like pivotal catalysts in the journey. So one such catalyst for me is Mr. Narayanamurthy of Infosys. So towards the end of ISB, like we had a beautiful program called Shadow a CEO. So where you get to shadow a CEO for one whole day. And I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to shadow Mr. Narayanamurthy. So I've traveled to Bangalore, like kind of was in Infosys campus for a whole day and was literally shadowing Mr. Murthy for a whole day, like attending every meeting with him, taking notes and, talking to him in the breaks, asking how was his journey, I asked like very stupid questions like what was the last movie you have seen. So we discussed about Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. That was the recent movie back then that he has seen. But But overall, that was like a very inspirational motive for me. The man was already like 60 plus back then, yet he makes it to office like at 7 a.m. and he takes the calls on the way, and he starts working from 6 a.m. in the morning. And some of his meetings are extremely uber productive. Like kind of the meeting schedules was like for 10 minutes standing meeting, and he makes certain decisions which would actually, kind of impact the company for next 2 quarters. So, that kind of focus over the 10 minutes, like on the way, walking towards the meetings as well, he'd be working on certain notes. People walking along with him would be feeding him some information about the upcoming meeting. So that was like kind of like extreme productivity for me. So that was one catalyst of experience for me. And later I got an opportunity to meet Satya Nadella as well in person in Microsoft days. So that was also a very good experience. So yeah, I think like kind of working with these leaders has been like kind of really helpful. Like they say, kind of you see the world through the shoulders of the giants. So I truly believe in that. I think these big people like kind of Deependra Goyal has been on cap table right now. So all these people who have been there, done that. So that's something which has been truly transformational and helpful.
That's really interesting to hear. I'm sure it would have been wonderful meeting Satya Nadella as well. Did you get to spend some time with him?
It's a quick 5-minute conversation. That was his first visit to India. I had to travel to Delhi. I was part of Microsoft journalist program back then. So as part of MS journalist, I, kind of got qualified or something. There was some shortlisting that happened. So I went out and I got an opportunity to travel to Delhi. It was a good 5-minute conversation. And yeah, again, like it was very, very interesting, candid responses by him. Like, where they were like kind of a lot of journalists were asking questions about like the comparisons between Amazon, Google and Microsoft, and he handled it so beautifully. So I think he's a good visionary. Yeah.
Wonderful to hear. So I believe you're a natural leader. A lot of them who know you also believe that you're a natural leader because of the kind of things that you do, how you deal with people around you. But do you think leadership and entrepreneurship is different? The reason I'm asking this question is you said you did shadow a CEO. So how do you differentiate that? Do you think there is a thin line of difference or a vast line of difference being a leader and an entrepreneur?
Good question, actually. Very interesting. So I believe entrepreneurship has a lot to do with problem solving. So quite a few people predominantly talk about, I'd want to start up a company. I'll want to, kind of like find a company, and then later they look at the purpose. But it should be the other way around. You have to solve a problem. You have to identify a problem, think of solving that problem, and startup is a natural process. Startup has got to be a byproduct for that. It shouldn't be the other way around where you start up something and then look around what to solve. So that's about entrepreneurship. You are solving a problem out there. Wherein leadership, I believe, is a lot more broader, where leadership is the ability to, inspire and influence someone else to do something. So, kind of it's more about like having the understanding of the whole situation, ideating that and ensuring that the execution happens well. Like, for example, Dhoni doesn't need to know how to bowl the Yorker right beside the white line, but he needs to assess the situation. He needs to inform the bowler, this is what you need to bowl. And and ensure that the bowler, he has enough influence on the bowler so that it would be executed seamlessly. So that's about leadership, in my opinion.
That's very well put, I should say. On that note, I want to ask you one thing about AdOnMo. It's been about a 10 years journey or plus?
It's 7 so far.
7 years. What was the problem that you were trying to solve then?
So with AdOnMo, while we were looking at in the initial stages, the key problem that we were trying to solve is, digital taxi toppers was something which never existed in India. And it was outdoor advertising has always been static. It was like the size of the hoardings and the size of the billboards have been increasing, but online advertising has been growing leaps and bounds. We're talking about if you order a camera, you get the relevant lens recommendation as an ad for you. So that's the kind of ads, kind of like intriguing ads that are coming to us. Wherein outdoor advertising has always been the static posters out there. So that's when, based on experience in US, I was there for about 4 years. It's a very common scene to see taxi topper ads in US, especially in New York.
Okay.
So that was the time, incidentally, where Ola and Uber were conglomerating all the cars in the country. So I thought it's a great time to mix those two solutions, like kind of have something on taxi toppers, make a digital taxi topper, where the ad can change based on location, based on time of the day. So that was the solution. That was the first product that we thought of. And obviously, like kind of it has its own set of challenges and interesting ups and downs. But yeah, that's how it all started.
So one interesting point you mentioned here is about the ups and downs, right? A lot of entrepreneurs, when we hear their journeys, we really want to hear how they made it there, the success story of it. But the turbulences they go through and how they've handled it is the real defining factor, is what I feel. Would you like to elicit a little bit more on that as to how did you go through this journey and how were you able to face these and get your company to where it is right now?
Got it. Yeah, couldn't agree more when you rightly said like kind of about turbulences which were not known or acknowledged by many typically. Yeah, for us even at AdOnMo there has been again like COVID has been like a major bummer. Like we have been growing at a great pace in terms of taxi toppers, and suddenly when COVID hit, like everything came to a halt. And then like we pivoted at the right time into the right vertical, which is residential lift lobby screens, and then we have scaled up across the country. So yeah, as they say, when when going gets tough, the tough gets going. So that's something I believe very strongly. When in terms of these turbulences, you need to have that resilience, and resilience is not just about surviving or let the storm pass kind of an attitude. I believe resilience is about thriving in the bad times. So that's what we have done as a company, and the team is kind of responsible for that. Like the way they have embraced that challenge, the way they have stuck to the company. They could have like kind of moved on to a different company. They could have have that negative mindset or carrying that negative mindset, but everyone in the company has been like super positive, super charged up. We can do something, we can build something. So that's the kind of attitude and that positive mindset which made the whole difference for us.
So it's an interesting take, right, when you're talking about teams. And I personally would resonate with that, or I'm resonating with that at this moment, because I believe in building strong teams for the success of an organization. And you have mentioned at least twice or thrice in this interview already about the right teams, the right teams. I'm sure there is a very strong culture that's building these right teams at AdOnMo. Would you like to talk a little bit more about the culture that plays a pivotal role in the success at AdOnMo?
100%. I believe culture is everything for kind of making or breaking the company. So when you say culture, it's not just about ping pong tables or free snacks in office. So when we say culture, we talk about how people treat each other in the company, how the values, the core values of the company, and at the center of it is trust. How well colleagues trust each other, how well colleagues trust the vision of the company, the purpose of the company. So that is pivotal in terms of growth of the company. If you need to take a company from one orbit to the next level, you need to have that strong culture, and more than strategy, I would say. Culture eats strategy for lunch any day. So, that whole culture aspect is something that we have always been, kind of super focused on. In fact, the first 40, 50 people of the company I personally interviewed, including the office boy. So, because that's something which I strongly believed. I have seen that in my earlier startup at Microsoft, at US, the companies I worked with. It's all about that people who always are eager to run that extra mile for the sake of company, for their own inbuilt, kind of like vigor. So that's something which is at the center of growth of any institution.
Wonderful. When you say that this is what builds the culture of an organization and how your teams get together, I know that for a matter of fact that this is again driven by the leadership, right? The leadership needs to decide what's going to happen. So what is that one trait for a leader that defines the success of an organization? That pivots the organization in a certain direction according to you?
Yeah, again, like I said, leadership is like kind of a concurrence of multiple core values out there. But if I need to pick that one trait, in my opinion, is empathy. I think a leader should have an emotional intelligence. He should be able to understand and, kind of like be able to empathize with everyone that he talks to in the company. So that is more important than anything else, in my opinion.
Fine, that's great. But when you're talking about empathy, I just have a different line of question out here. How does accountability and empathy go together? Because when you try to be accountable in an organization as large as yours, you need to take tough calls. Does Sravanth take those tough calls? Because I see Sravanth, someone who comes across with a very pleasant demeanor, who's very nice to everyone. Empathy flows out of you when you're talking to someone. Then how do you ensure accountability takes place in an organization? Like,
You need to see me at work. I have been like kind of in both shoes. Like kind of there were like scenarios where I've been like very empathetic to people, be it in terms of like kind of the leaves work or like kind of assignment of work or the kind of freedom that was given to them. At the same time, the job needs to be done at the end of the day. So it's up to them. It's their own pace how kind of they would want to perform and they would want to manage their tasks. So you can't just like pinpoint and micromanage saying that, hey, you need to write this line of code out there. So at the end of the day, I need that feature to be built and deployed in so and so time frame. Unless I see a red flag where things are getting delayed, that's when I'd step in and I'd say, do you need any help? Do you need anyone else like to assist you in that particular role? I think that level of freedom is important. While we are empathizing, giving that freedom is equally important, and that's when I believe the results would carry on. And I strongly believe in letting the employees fail also. So there are like 1-2 times the targets will be missed. I think that's totally fine. People need to have that sense of freedom out there. So let them fail, and that's when they would learn and they would see the macro impact. I would actually, a lot of people in the company would know about the macro impact of what they are doing. That's the kick of working in a startup, right? So you would know the results. You would be seeing, hey, if you do so and so feature, you would know this feature has helped Amazon out there. You would know this particular sale that you have done has actually helped increase in the valuation of the company. So everything is like so evident, and I try to keep it that transparent to the teams. So that's when they would get the kick out of it, and that's when they would be driven to do more.
I actually got a lot about the culture in this 2 minutes that you spoke about. You were talking about letting them fail. You were talking about empowering them. At the same point of time, no micromanagement. It's very interesting to see what are all the kind of things that you're getting into a team like this. To move into a completely different line of things, what's happening here is every word you say is making me think how Sravanth works, how AdOnMo works, what's happening in this ecosystem, right? Let's talk about the macro level ecosystem of India as a whole, the startup ecosystem. Huge number of unicorns, a number of startups, multiple of them which are playing the valuation game. You are at $100 million, but you're with positive cash flows. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
And you're one of the very few in the Hyderabad ecosystem as well as in the India ecosystem who's raising funds, who's playing the valuation game, but they're smart enough in maintaining their cash flows in a positive way. How are you doing that? And what are your opinions or views on what's happening in the startups ecosystem in India?
Yeah, I think as per ecosystem, India has been like thriving. I think India has been like kind of going at a different supersonic speed compared to rest of the globe. And like the recent report that was talking about the recession probability as well, India is at the least where it clearly says that probability of recession is 0%. So that's the kind of like state we are in. So we're at the right country at the right time. So that's one. And in terms of macroeconomic factors, they certainly do play a role. So, kind of like whatever has been happening around in the country has been like playing a role in terms of the growth of the ecosystem, be it of startups or be it any other companies. Like there are a little over 1 lakh companies currently, 1 lakh startups in the country right now, a little over 120 unicorns right now. But the good point is like kind of people has been realizing a lot lately over the last 2 years, especially about the importance of profitability. So earlier it used to be the game of scalability. So now I think like people have been balancing scalability and profitability quite well. So that's the reason we have seen only 2 unicorns last year versus 45 2 years ago. Yeah, so that's something which has been like kind of a good change for the ecosystem.
On that note, Sravanth, I really want to understand what is AdOnMo aspiring to be? This is something I'm sure most of them would love to hear who follow your journey in specific.
Well, we're certainly not in the race of unicorn. So I believe valuation is a byproduct of excellence. If you solve the problem right, if you, kind of like tap on the right direction in terms of growth of a startup, the revenues, valuations, everything would be like a byproduct of that. So we are currently India's largest digital screen network, and we are in about 20 geographies right now. So our growth path is towards like kind of growing much wider and deeper in Indian ecosystem. There's a lot more to grow. and we have built a programmatic engine, technological advancements. So there's a lot of innovative campaigns that brands are working with us on. So that's something that we would like to focus a lot more on and solve that problem so effectively, such that outdoor advertising shouldn't just be, kind of a no-brain kind of an advertising. So we want to make it as seamless as, kind of Google ads or Facebook ads out there.
That's wonderful. One thing I really want to touch upon is you spoke about macroeconomic conditions, I think just in the previous question. How important is it to be in the right place at the right time? Again, something you mentioned, right? If you are talking to some of the first gen entrepreneurs, how do you think is the economic condition in India currently compared to vis-a-vis when you started? Do you think it's the right time for every first gen entrepreneur to take that risk?
No.
Chase their dreams?
So my first startup was about like 12 years ago, so 13 years ago in fact. So from then until now, a lot has changed obviously in terms of like startup ecosystem, in terms of the growth. I think the best invention of the decade has been UPI. So that has been at the center of a lot of fintech startups growth in the country. And, kind of we have been seeing like how well the companies like Swiggy and Zomato has been growing. So, kind of like Instamart, like the e-commerce has been like kind of so affordable. At the same time, we practically in India are living in a luxury. Like you can order anything in like on your fingertips and you'll get that in 8-9 minutes. So that's something, the whole ecosystem has changed the way like we have been living in the country. And I like the question when you talk about first gen entrepreneurs in specific. So I think first gen entrepreneurs like predominantly should look at solving a problem versus starting a company in the first place. I've been seeing quite a few people who want to start a company first and then look at, okay, what should I do now? So that's a mind shift change. It's a paradigm shift that you have to fundamentally look at. So be fundamentally different and then have that iterative progress on top of it. But having that fundamental difference or having that strong bedrock solution for the company is the key. And then you can make incremental progress on top of it.
So you are talking about a paradigm shift in how entrepreneurs think, or people who are chasing the dream of becoming an entrepreneur, right? How they think. That's something that has to be coached is what I believe. Not everyone directly has the access to that kind of a thought process. Access in the sense it's not that something that comes naturally. You have to hear about it, understand about it. Maybe some leaders naturally go there. I believe every entrepreneur was backed at one point of time by someone. Sure, even someone believed in Sravanth, right? That Sravanth could do this. Are you doing that to the startup ecosystem right now? Because when I introduced you, something I specifically spoke about is you being a mentor. Are you mentoring startups now? And are you betting on startups in helping someone become the next AdOnMo in India?
Yeah, like you said, quite a few startup founders keep reaching out, be it through ISB ecosystem or T-Hub ecosystem or in general startup ecosystem. And and I'll always be accessible in terms of whenever they have a specific question or they might be needing some connect which can help them propel into a different orbit. So happy to help. And in terms of like mentoring and all, it's definitely, again, like everyone's journey is different. So whatever worked for me need not work for someone else. But I would share my experience without influencing him, saying that you need not follow this. This is what worked for me. So it might or might not work for you, but this is what worked for me. I have dealt this situation in this particular way. And let the particular person, like he or she can decide to herself or himself on how to take it forward. But I think that's the key in mentoring. Like I think you shouldn't intrude too much, wherein you share your experience and let that other person decide on what they want to do with that.
But during this period of time, are you someone who's open to exposing your failures? Because not everyone's ready to expose their failures, right? But failure is the real story. That's the real inspirational story. Because how did someone bounce back from that? Did you have a failure story in your journey? And did you actually bounce back hard? How did that happen, if I may know?
I believe failure is an inherent part of innovation. So when we do experiments, it's, kind of like failures are imminent. So you can't escape failure, or else you would always be giving that plain vanilla solution to everyone. So, but the key is to fail cheaply. So you need to ensure where exactly, what is the failure point. So are you failing cheaply, or are you burning all your resources, or like probably a series of funding before you realize that you have failed? So the key for startups is to fail cheaply. Quite a lot of startups that we have been seeing today all the innovative startups, all the unicorns of the India that you were mentioning, the likes of Zomato, the likes of Dream11, the likes of Zerodha, they all have experimented at some point and failed at some feature and then like innovated from there. So you need to fail, but fail cheaply.
So one of the interesting things for me is how do people handle success? Because success is not easy to handle, right? It sometimes gets to you that, I'm doing this is happening, I'm in the media, there is a lot of attention, people are coming to me. But I've always seen that you are someone who comes across with a very calm demeanor, someone who's very humble in his approach. There are different places where I've seen you treating, they talk about how you treat a janitor and how you treat your vice president or your investor the same way is very important. I've seen these things which come naturally to you. Is this something that's happened more from your childhood days, or is this how Sravanth has developed himself? Can you talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I think like whatever, like you said, success and all, I don't see it as one particular checkpoint or one particular destination kind of a thing. So you will continue reaching milestones. But for the key for every success, the key for reaching every milestone is humility. I think that's the cornerstone of success in the first place. Like you won't be adaptable, you won't be willing to learn if you let that success get into your head. I think like that ability to, accept failures, that ability to acknowledge that it's not just like, one person who succeeded, it's about the team effort, like who made it, kind of like to the team. So that's something that we need to acknowledge, and that's where like humility comes in. And like right from the beginning, I have been like, again, like sports have helped a lot, like kind of team sports and team bonding activities would always like kind of helped a lot, wherein you would always realize it's a team's victory. It's not like one particular person, like kind of that even if you get a man of the match and your team loses, you'll always be unhappy for that. So that's something, I believe from the beginning that it's about, kind of like going together as a team. So if you need to go far, you need to go together. Like you can't just like kind of like go alone.
You're talking a lot about cricket, right? And I know you love shoes and you're a great movie fan. Now, why I really want to get there is at this place, that too, when you are trying to reach to a point of success, you're someone who's absorbing a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress. A lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about that. And I'm sure having something that drives you and you're passionate about helps you deal with your stress. How do you handle your downtime? How do you feel? How do you energize yourself? And how do all these different small things you do, how do you give them space in your such busy schedule in life? Because everyone wants your time and you want time for yourself.
Right.
How do you manage that?
That's a great question. I think in terms of like multitasking or doing multiple things at a time. So I think it's about like when you say multitasking, I personally like kind of deal with it in this way. So when I was working on one particular task, let's say when I play cricket, I focus only on cricket. So I won't multitask while doing one of those tasks. So when I'm watching movie, I watch like with utmost interest. I won't even like take calls during the movie, or unless obviously it's a work emergency kind of a scenario. But when I spend like kind of great time with family, or we play games, or like kind of go on a vacation, it's like kind of like giving that utmost importance and doing that with that dedication and focus that lets you truly multitask is what I believe. So you need to like kind of like pocket your time, 30 minutes, kind of for this particular series, or 3 hours for a cricket match, or, kind of like 2 hours for like, kind of like a drive. So all those things you need to like kind of like time box those things. That'll really help manage the time very effectively. And that has been working well for me.
It's nice. And to stress a little bit more on the cinema aspect that we're talking about, being Indians, movies or cinema or media is a source of entertainment for us, but it's also a source of inspiration and knowledge is what I feel personally. Could you talk about one film or the specific dialogue in a film that has inspired you, that has shaped you in a certain way?
So there's no one movie or something, but I'm typically a big movie buff. I have watched like quite a few movies. Like when Netflix was launched, when I was in US, I watched 42 movies in the first month. Netflix wrote an email to me saying you are a valuable customer and all that. So that was the time where Netflix was giving that envelopes with the DVDs, and we were supposed to send the envelope back. So 42 movies in 1 month was a big thing back then. They had a limited database also back then. So I watched a lot of movies, and in India, as you know, movie is a religion, cinema is a religion, and yeah, cinema and cricket are two big stress busters for me, and I kind of like delve a lot into that. And for me, it's a very good bonding activity as well. Like a lot of the times, like when we were working quite late in office until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, we'll suddenly like let's go for a movie, and I think I'd watch at least like close to 100 movies with my teammates. So yeah, movie has been
Are you serious? 100 movies?
yeah, at least 100 movies with teammates, colleagues, office folks, at least. Yeah.
So do you have some songs playing in the office when there's a celebration going on? I'm assuming there's a lot of celebration.
No, there'll be birthday celebrations. There'll be like Friday fun activities and games and kind dumb sharads kind of activities that we do. But there won't be an ambient music that keeps going. That's definitely not there. But yeah, but a lot of like fun activities and all. And like I said, like the culture is not just about having these one-off activities. It's an undercurrent which flows like kind of like throughout the journey. So it's about like the way we talk to them, the way we treat them. So let's say some random person like kind of some employee who left the company like 3-4 years ago, like still remembering and calling us, like saying that, hey, by the way, kind of I'm working on so and so company and I got this doubt. How would you have dealt with that? So that's basically a testament of the trust they have, kind of in the company or as in the management team or leadership team. So that has truly that has been a real testament for us.
Also, I feel we are kind of in the right setting. When I look to my right, left, and everywhere around, there are a lot of books which we haven't spoken about. You're an avid book reader. So what is your favorite book?
Well, in fiction, the recent book that I liked is Dark Matter. But otherwise, Agatha Christie, almost all the end suspense books is what I love. And in non-fiction, the recent good ones that I have loved are, one is Leaders Eat Last and Start With Why. Start With Why is a fantastic book. Atomic Habits, again, like, yeah, the list goes on.
It's wonderful. And to add it to this, you're someone who believes in active learning is what I assume, because you read a lot of books. And I've also come across on your LinkedIn profile that you have multiple degrees. You don't stop studying or you don't stop learning.
Yeah, I still believe there's a lot more to learn. I still post AdOnMo. I want to do 1 or 2 more degrees.
You're saying 1 or 2 more degrees. I really want to know how many degrees do you have already in place?
Will the 6-month programs also count?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I've done my bachelor's in engineering, electronics and communications. I've done my master's. It's a double major, software engineering and embedded systems. And I've done my MBA. It's a double major, marketing and strategy and leadership. And I've done a 6-month program in MIT for artificial intelligence. And while in US, I've done a small program in New York Film Academy into photography. So yeah, that's about 7 programs so far.
And
degrees.
How many do you aim to have in the next 10 years?
No, I don't have any such like kind of targets of the number of degrees. It's about like going with the flow kind of a thing. But I certainly would love to like learn a lot more about AI, and generative AI is the future is what I strongly believe. So from that perspective, like kind of probably some programs where I can upskill myself and learn a lot more about like what's happening in AI world.
It's interesting. I somehow feel this talks a lot about how you treat diversification and also place importance on it, because you're always ready to learn. You're always talking about what's coming in the future. So how does Sravanth Gajula view diversification? How important is it? And diversification in businesses, what does it mean to you?
I think it's always a smart move. Like the companies have to have that on look about what's coming next and diversify at the right time. Like Zomato, we all know that it started as a review website. Then it went on to food delivery, and now it started about like after Blinkit, it's like kind of like making waves now. So diversification at the right time has been pivotal for Zomato. And similarly, we have seen like kind of, there is again like related diversification and unrelated diversification. So we have seen the companies like Colgate like diversifying from related products, like from toothpaste into toothbrush and all. But again, like there are quite a few extraordinary stories, the likes of ITC, which diversified from cigarettes and soaps to hotels all of a sudden. And so it has been into manufacturing, and obviously House of Brands is a different level. Again, like the likes of Tata and Reliance has been at a different level. So how geo has shaped entire Indian usage of like, kind of data. So among all the 195 countries in the world, India used to be at 150 in terms of data consumption. Today it is number one. Lot of credit has gone to like, the service providers like Jio leading it from the front. So making mobile data extremely affordable. And that really has changed the entire whatever UPI technology we are talking about or ordering on Blinkit and Swiggy. Everything has been thriving on that fine line of mobile data availability. So all that innovation at the right time at the right place has to be like acknowledged or attributed to these big companies which have made our life so easy.
So I assume as much as businesses have diversification, even an individual will have diversification, right? Where do we see, or where do you see Sravanth Gajula, the brand Sravanth Gajula, after 10 years?
I typically don't plan even 5-year or 4-year business plan. I'll focus on kind of like much short-term goals and interim goals and minor milestones. That's how I typically work. So yeah, for me, next 3 years is to entirely focus on AdOnMo and put AdOnMo into the IPO path, ensure that kind of like we take a company to the next level in terms of growth, both in terms of technology growth as well as revenue. So that's the core focus. Yeah, 10 year down the line, to be honest, I have no visibility at the moment on in terms of like what would be kind of the next big thing that I'd be on to. But certainly it will be like about solving a problem. That's for sure. Like I won't be like kind of doing anything like relatively monotonous like after this whole exciting journey of AdOnMo. I'd be focusing on probably solving the next problem. So that will be the core focus for me.
Interesting. But also on that note, earlier you were talking about how you face challenges and you overcame them and how you were thriving during, I should say, recession time or downtime, whatever it could be. But now with that experience, are you someone who can see into the future and probably say, you know what, there is always going to be a problem. How are we action ready for that? Because right now I feel if you look at the economic conditions, could be the war in Ukraine, could be COVID in between, could be some other condition that's happening on the other part of the world that's influencing how we are functioning, right? Every company is still talking about cost cutting, slashing out jobs, but still they are growing in their own way. Are you able to see through and say this could be the problem? Are you someone who believes on analytics and says I can read patterns and based on that I make my decisions? Because you're talking about failing cheap. That means a lot of emphasis on analytics, just not on gut, right? Gut is a huge thing for entrepreneurs. I believe in that. But on that aspect, I really wanted to understand, are you future ready in a different way? Are you looking at your future differently compared to how Sravanth was looking at future 5 years before?
Absolutely. Like the macro conditions that you mentioned, like, be it at the national level, at the international level. So that definitely like plays a big role in terms of like shaping the future journey of any company, be it a startup or be it a traditional company. So having that, kind of that knowledge in place is quite important. In terms of the futuristic aspect, I believe there are like two, kind of like key aspects that I typically look at, like which are agnostic to any sector. One is like having that team which is adaptable. So you need to have a team which can adapt to the change at any given moment. So that's something like which can make you future ready, number one. And number two, data. You always need to have the data patterns and, kind of identify the trends and double click into that particular data and try and identify how can you make yourselves better, how can you make your company better. Is there something else where you see an aberration, or is there some other gap that you can solve? So I think like having a strong team and having focus on data are the two aspects which can always keep you future ready.
It's amazing. So what is the future of data according to you? What's going to happen with data? Is there going to be some innovation, or are we just going to go deeper and get faster analytics on data?
Yeah, I think faster analytics and having that more and more data patterns evolved is something which definitely is going to be the future. And at the same time, AI is going to play a huge role out there. So, yeah.
And do you think jobs will exist post AI?
Yeah, definitely. Again, like AI is there to make our lives better. It's not like kind of the jobs would suddenly vanish and it'll be robots working out there. So there will be like, certain places like where AI can make our lives easier, but people has to upskill to the next level. People have to upskill to the next level to use AI to the right, to solve the right problem out there. But it's not a case where like everyone suddenly become jobless. So that's not how it works, is what I believe.
It's wonderful. Just going back to something that we've discussed in the initial stages of our talk, we're talking about first generation entrepreneurs, right? Could you talk about anything related to how it was for you to become a first gen entrepreneur? Are there any challenges that they face? Because I'm sure a lot of them viewing this interview right now, they would really be aspiring to become a future entrepreneur. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs are pushed back by something.
Got it. Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me personally, like again, like I personally don't come from a very well-off family, so it was a big decision at home first. More than convincing the investors, I need to convince my parents, saying that, hey, I'm quitting Microsoft to start a company. So that was a big thing. Like I had to convince my parents and kind of let them know that, by the way, I'm planning to come back to India to start my first startup. I was quitting Microsoft to start my second startup. So these are like kind of like big shockers for them. So yeah, but they have been like super supportive, and that's actually a strong force or a strong reason for me to kind of validate myself and validate that the company can go up to the next level. So that really helped. And first generation entrepreneurs, like typically one thing that I would suggest is be very clear on what you want to solve. Be extremely clear on the problem statement. Be extremely clear on the solution, and that's when you take the plunge. So you don't take the plunge first and then kind of like scout around. That's not the right way to start a company. So I think first gen entrepreneurs, I would recommend strongly is to focus and have that clarity of problem and solution before you take the deep dive and the plunge.
Focus and clarity, right? That's a talk that talks a lot about your mindset per se. Right. And I believe as much as your skill sets play a role, it's your mindset, how you place yourself and how you're shaping it up matters a lot. So how was your mindset when you were starting off your journey, and how did you ensure it was in the right place? Did you have a mentor, or were you continuously in the surroundings where you were looking at people who were thriving? How did it happen? And to be honest, the time when I heard about AdOnMo 7-8 years back, I didn't know. I mean, I just got to know about 1 year back. There are startups which have started with some brilliant thoughts, brilliant ideas. Hardly 4 to 5% made it through up to level. About 2% made it to where you are. How does mindset play a role in these kind of journeys?
I think mindset is everything. Mindset is absolutely important in terms of running a company, especially from 0 to 1. Any company, I believe, has a 2 levels of journey: 0 to 1, 1 to 10. So 1 to 10 is a scale game. 0 to 1 is a validation game. So 0 to 1, when you're validating the idea, when you're building that minimum viable product, when you're convincing your first investor, when you're hiring your first 20 employees. So that 0 to 1 game is where you need to give your 100%. You can't be lackluster during that journey. You can't, to be honest, like your work-life balance, taking a vacation, taking a break, everything goes for a toss. Exactly. You need to be utmost focused in that 0 to 1 game. So that's like kind of very enjoyable for me, like kind of 0 to 1 game. And it's all about the team again, like kind of like having a, kind of like great team around you will help you, navigate through that 0 to 1 phase very easily. And whenever like kind of you're talking about like starting up a new feature or like, doing some kind of pivot out there, it's again 0 to 1 for that particular segment. So you always need to have that fresh energy, kind of fresh frame of mind whenever you're trying to solve something. And that really helps us.
So Sravanth, while we're at the fag end of this interview, a lot of learnings, a lot of insights. But one thing that really is stuck with me is when you spoke about 0 to 1 and 1 to 10, right? Companies going from 0 to 1. Now, there are a lot of companies in India which have reached that scale of, transitioning from 0 to 1. What would your message be to these entrepreneurs, these group of individuals who want to scale it up from 1 to 10? That's where I see a lot of them fizzle down.
I believe constantly innovating is one thing. You need to try and understand whether your, kind of your solution is still relevant in the market after you reach a scale of one. Has your company or solution become obsolete, or is it still relevant? And try and identify that piece out there is the first core parameter. Or if a pivot is needed, do it right away, without the sooner the better. And apart from that, being part of the right ecosystem and having that right camaraderie is the key. At the end of the day, you are an average of the top 5 people you roam around with. So having that right, kind of people around you will make you a better person and a better founder.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sravanth. I think it is a brilliant afternoon. I've got to learn so many things, some amazing stories, great insights, your thoughts about entrepreneurship, your ideas on leadership, how young entrepreneurs should look at business more from a problem-solving point of view than from starting just a business, and what has led you here, your humility, your thoughts about your team. I think it just engulfs a beautiful journey together. I only wish I get another opportunity to do this again with you, maybe 5 years down the line, and see what all you've done, more courses that you've added up in your kitty. And I'm sure you'll have a lot to share again once we meet. But on this note, I would love to wish you all the best for your journey ahead, whatever that you are aspiring to do, and wherever AdOnMo is going to go. I'm sure we're going to see and hear a lot about it. Thank you so much, and totally appreciate you for taking out the time and sharing this journey with us.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.